I'm not the world's smartest when it comes to politics. I'm the first to admit that. I'm not even the second or third, but I'm trying. And I think that that's really the message here. Get out and vote because it does matter. Your vote absolutely matters.
You can't hold us back. You can't hold us back. You can't hold us back.
Hey folks, Roland Martin here with Woke.Vote. Well, of course, we're focused on 2018 midterm elections, trying to get you focused not just on the issues, but also on the importance of using the power you have to cast your ballot. Today, we'll be chatting with Erica Ash. She joins me right now, of course. You've seen her on television and in the movies, and normally she's the wild child, but today she gets to be a little bit more sedate, if you will, I think. What's happening?
Hey, how are you? Thank you for having me.
All good. Well, first of all, so I say you broke out the proper attire.
You know, I tried, but I put a little spin on it. I put like a little ethnic spin on the flag.
I think one of the things is that white folks don't understand. Our view of the flag, even when you talk about democracy, when you talk about voting, is totally different than theirs because it's a different perspective when you talk about freedom. And here we are, 399 years since the first 20-odd Africans arrived in the United States in Virginia, and we still are trying to get all of the rights that we're supposed to have.
Right. I mean, when you think about it, it's a bit hypocritical. I mean, they were creating this flag and creating all of these laws with people being excluded from the laws that they were actually creating. So all men were not included in that. So it was it's a weird hypocrisy when you think about it.
Well, I was just arguing with someone. Actually, it wasn't quite an argument because I smacked him down real quick. On Twitter.
Was this physically?
Nah, but I should have done it physically.
Oh,
I would have.
I'm glad you didn't.
I made the point about that we've had 114 Supreme Court justices in America. 108 have been white men. I said, if you want to understand the history of America,
100%.
right there, out of 114, 108 have been white men. Yeah. And he goes, well, things have been working out great. I said,
have they though?
Really? I was like, oh.
Was that when the smack happened?
Yeah,
that's when the
right.
smack would have happened for me.
Right.
Yeah.
That's when the tweet went to all of my followers, so therefore they can get in on the action when I'm busy. Right.
Yeah. Sometimes you just want to let them have it. It's like kind of like the Beehive for Beyonce. Sometimes you just don't want to get your hands dirty. It's like, you know what, this is too easy. I'm gonna just let y'all have this.
Oh yeah, and they're very good at handling.
I know they are.
But and again, it's a different perspective. Even when we talk about just this idea of voting, when you look at the efforts today with voter suppression, even the craziness with voter ID, people go, oh, but ID is simple. I'm like, yeah, but once you start going underneath, where you have to have a certain type of ID, we must see the birth certificate, it must be raised, it must be a certain paperweight. I mean, look, these are barriers that are put in place.
Can I just be quite frank with you? I think a lot of people end up not voting or being politically active because a lot of people just don't understand the terms. And I think what happens a lot of times, people don't want to admit that they don't understand what these terms mean. And people talk about it, they talk about the electorate and gubernatorial and blah, blah, blah. You might as well be saying Oshkosh, bagosh, blah, 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 because people just don't get it.
Because also, we haven't had real civics, though.
Right.
I mean, we haven't had real, I'm talking about honest civics.
Exactly.
Not that fake stuff that actually exists in the classroom. Right,
and even with the fake stuff that exists in the classroom, because I took that, even with the fake stuff, everything is glossed over. And then all of a sudden you're supposed to know what everybody's talking about. And that's always been a problem for me, when I'm dealing with political conversations. I mostly listen. But when you're talking about actually taking action to change what's going on in the political climate, that's where you're arrested because you're just kind of like, well, I don't really know who to vote for because this person is speaking way over my head.
There was a sister in Fort Worth who served time in federal prison. She gets out, she votes. She doesn't realize that she lost her right to vote.
Right.
She gets prosecuted. She's sitting in a federal prison right now, not only for voter fraud, but also parole violation. So she's in there for 5 years. For simply casting a ballot. Now, we're gonna spend an inordinate amount of dollars to lock her up for 5 years because she said, no one told me. And in fact, her probation officer testified that there was nothing, it wasn't like you got out and it was kind of like, oh, by the way, here's a sheet of paper, you can't vote.
Right.
She had no idea. 5 years she's sitting in federal prison. right now in Texas.
And there are a lot of people, they don't know if they can. They don't know what to do, how to do it, where to do it. They get, all these documents and pamphlets in the mail, but they don't really understand how to dig through and figure it all out. So I think, the solution, because I'm all about solutions, is figuring out a way to reintroduce that into the school system. And I think, getting people together who are like-minded, right? If you don't know exactly what's happening, I think the first thing is don't be ashamed of that. Don't be ashamed to say, I don't really know what that means. I don't know what that term means. I don't know what this politician stands for. Even if everyone's talking about it, people are scared to get laughed at. Now, I'm the queen of no shame, as we know.
Yes, we know.
But I feel like a lot of people, like the ego gets in the way, right?
Yep.
And you don't want to be the one friend that looks stupid. I'm always looking stupid. But the thing is I'll ask questions. I'll say,
Yep.
you know what? I haven't watched TV this weekend. What happened? Talk to me.
Right.
So my friends now know. They're like, oh, Erica's come out from under her rock now. Let me explain to her. But I have to do that because I wouldn't know what's going on otherwise, because it really does get confusing. And I get like,
Oh, yeah.
it's overwhelming, and I get mind overload, and I just have to shut everything off.
Look, I have other friends who send me a text and say, Roland, first they go, is this true?
Right.
And then it's, okay, what's the real deal with this?
Mm-hmm.
How major is it? And I'm kind of like, okay, boom, 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 hit them right back. They're like, okay, cool. Then move on. And my deal is, I'm cool with that because for a lot of them, they want to be educated on them. They say, look, I trust you're gonna give me the information, and then I can take it from there. Now, that's when you also gotta have my stuff together, because it can be running around quoting me going, now Roland said,
right.
And then if it's crazy, like, that really didn't happen.
Exactly. Then your Twitter followers are gonna let you have it. But that's the thing. I think everybody needs 3 friends. You need that one friend that's not gonna make you feel stupid because you say you don't know. The one friend who does know everything and can spout it out. I mean, like a Roland Martin Jr. And then you need that one friend to translate.
I make it easy. You don't need to translate.
Right, you do.
You don't need
You do. But those friends that's always like, oh yeah, well the woman is and you're like, girl, I don't know what you're saying. Talk to me like I'm a 5th grader. Break it down to me in simplistic terms so I know exactly what you're saying and exactly what I'm going to do about it.
Okay, now somebody who's watching, they probably will say, oh no, that's not basic. What they don't realize is we, as a journalist, we are actually trained. Newspapers are written for 5th graders. That's not a joke. We literally are written. Al Newhart, of course, who was the founder of USA Today, used to be the CEO of Gannett, he used to always hate reading George Will with the Washington Post. He said, I don't ever want to have to read a newspaper and have a dictionary right next to me. He said, make it plain for the people. So one of the things that I've always done is utilize television and radio and also social media to teach folks. I never thought about it that way until about a month before she died, Dr. Maya Angelou, when she was being honored at the National Portrait Gallery. I did an interview with her and she said, you're a teacher. She said, I watch you. You actually teach. And I was kind of like, okay, I never thought about it that way. But the reality is, to your point, the average person doesn't know. The reality is there is no affirmative right to vote in this country. There isn't. It was specifically set up that way. People think, oh no, I have a right to vote. Actually, you don't. There's nowhere in the Constitution that says you have an absolute right to vote. There are constitutional amendments that say you as a woman and me as an African American can't be denied the right to vote.
Right.
But there's nothing that says, no, you absolutely have that right. We're gonna probably have, in the midterm elections, more than half of the American population not cast a ballot.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But then I also have this other view where my deal is very simple. I use 2 versions. So I use one for mainstream television. I say vote or shut the hell up. But the other one really is vote or shut the fuck up.
Right.
Because I mean I can't because there's nothing worse for me than people who complain about a system. Because folks really don't understand that literally everything in our life is impacted by the ballot. There's nothing in our lives that isn't determined by politics some way or another.
Right.
If you were wearing something that was actually exported from another country, it had to go through a particular procedure that was established by government.
Right.
And that's also, I think, where people go, oh, no, that none of that stuff matters anything in my life, when, oh, yes, it does. It matters a hell of a whole lot.
Also, in terms of us having so many less people voting in this midterm elections, I think that can be shifted, even if it's just, a fefew percentage points by things like this.
Look,
us
that was
getting
a
together,
race.
us talking about it, because it's like double dutch. It's over. You're like, where do I jump in? How to jump in? You just try.
Right.
And even if you stop the ropes, you get back out and you try again. So
But
I
it
think,
actually does matter. Right now, Republicans hold a 1-vote majority in the Virginia House of Delegates. And the only reason they hold that is because that was in the last election, that was a tie. It was decided by a coin flip.
Oh, wow.
They ended up the exact same number of votes.
Right.
And the coin flip, Republican wins the coin flip,
Wow.
keeps the seat, and otherwise the Democrats could have taken control of both chambers. A coin flip.
Right. Right.
So when somebody
and that
tells
would've changed
me
the complete face of everything after that.
my one vote is no big deal,
Right.
Obama wins North Carolina by 14,000 votes in 2008. That literally, if you break it down, the number of precincts, one per precinct.
Right.
One vote.
Right.
And folks go, oh, really? I'm going, yes.
Right.
You just don't understand how that can make the difference.
Yeah, it really, really does.
And also, I think when we look at a lot of these media institutions, they also are not talking about issues that folks actually care about. And I think that's also a huge deal. Are you talking about things that I care about and then putting it in a way where I understand how my life is impacted?
Right. And also the side of it that matters most to us. You could talk about the issues that are relevant to us, but you could skew it in a way that makes us sort of feel the way that you want us to feel about it. And that's what I think a lot of news outlets do as well. It's whatever the issue is, instead of making it plain, allowing us to make our own decision, or equally looking at both sides of it.
If you're Black or Latino, it's not like the other networks are doing a bang-up job, again, speaking to those issues that impact us in a much different way.
Right. Right.
First election you voted in, what was
Oh,
it?
gosh. Do you want me to be completely honest?
No, I want you to lie. Yes.
Obama.
That was the first one? So that wasn't the first one you were eligible for.
Right.
So after 2008, did you then look at other elections, or did you only vote in president?
No, I started voting from there, and so I would do the midterms, and I would do I did start voting from that point on. I didn't vote in every single election from that point on, but I did start voting more regularly.
Growing up, was that a part of your upbringing?
No, it was not. I mean, religion was huge in my family. Education was huge in my family.
So y'all
Politics was not.
you had to go to church.
We had to go to church, Sunday school, Bible study. We did everything church-based because both my parents were preachers.
Hold on. So both of your parents are preachers. So when they had souls to the polls.
Not in my church.
Really?
I mean, we would have the odd candidate come to a service, but my church growing up wasn't very, politics meets religion heavy. I see that a lot now in my church that I go to now. Like, I mean, the politicians will come out on that one odd Sunday right before elections.
Oh yeah, they'll be there.
Oh, they know Jesus then. So I see it all the time now. But when I was growing up, no, that wasn't a big part of our upbringing.
So you think that's also an answer? Because earlier you
100%.
said put it in the schools, but also I do believe, for me, the reason I see the value, so my parents worked elections. They volunteered for campaigns. They ran phone banks. That was a huge part of my upbringing.
And look at you now. And it's very interesting because I think that might be even bigger than the civics piece in schools. I mean, I think that at this point, having that in schools at least gives the children the opportunity to go home and ask their parents, so Mom, Dad, what is this? What do you think we should do about this? This is what I learned in school today. Let's talk about it. At least gives the children something to bring home and start a conversation with. However, if the parents start that for the children, then the children can go to school and say, hey, why am I not learning this here? Why don't I have a civics class? You know what I mean? And we'll have more Roland Martins running around here. I mean, the way that you were raised, the fact that your parents took you to the polls, the fact that they did not make it a choice for you, they actually exposed you to that in a way.
Then my dad watched about 5 hours of news a day. And I use this in speeches all the time, the importance of being aware of those things.
My parents were very, very concerned with making sure that we were well-rounded, but that's just not something that they were very exposed to, and that's something that they were exposed to.
Which is why connecting the
parents.
dots matter, because
exactly.
Because the thing is, you can't just take off that election because you say, I don't like either candidate, and people get caught up in this whole thing of, well, the lesser of two evils. Here's the reality: somebody is going to win,
Right.
one or the other.
Right.
You better make a decision. Okay, I don't like neither one, but I like that one a lot less than that one.
Right.
You gotta make that call.
Absolutely.
And not act as if it doesn't matter.
I think, again, going back to my 3 friends, finding people who are like-minded, finding people that you actually connect with, people who find the same things important that you find important, people whose conversations you enjoy having, right? So because of friendships like yours, that's what made me figure out that my vote did matter, and that it was important for me to vote and get out there, even if I wasn't doing everything, perfectly, just trying, and then learning from the mistakes, whatever mistakes that I made, and trying again and getting better the next time that I went out to vote or to speak about something, political. That's the start. That's the way that we do it, because we can't go back and undo, I can't go back in time and make myself be at the polls when I wasn't. So that's where the civics piece comes in. But I can start now, and that's what I started when I started, and now I'm a part of more political drives to get other people to vote. I'm not the world's smartest when it comes to politics. I'm the first to admit that. I'm not even the second or third. But I'm trying, and I think that's really the message here. Get out and vote, because it does matter. Your vote absolutely matters.
Erica Ash, thank you so very much. Again, folks, use your power. But most importantly, Election Day is the end of one process. What happens the day after the election is the beginning of another. We need you engaged, we need you involved, we need you informed. Register, vote, and then make sure the folks who you voted for do what they say they were going to do, because you are still a constituent. So silly.
Be like me. Be woke. Vote.